SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Spring is here, and so are the critters. If critters are making themselves at home in your home, call Critter Control. Serving the Pine Belt and Gulf Coast, they'll remove those pests and keep them out for good. Call Nathan at 601-467-9341. Critter Control. Get them out, keep them out.
Gotta wait for it to drop. Come on.
I don't know if it's going to.
This is one of those loop things. Took the good parts out. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay. At least we got to the main theme.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah, how's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing, man?
That's how you wake up on a Friday right there. A little Metallica rocking. I thought that one
What?
had I thought that one had the ramp up right at the end, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, well, we do have some things in the bumper music that are just looped.
Oh yeah, you get caught on those there. You get tricked.
Every so often you sit here and you wait and you wait and you wait and nothing happens. In other words, some of our bumper tracks are a lot like watching legislative action.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, we're starting
loopy
out.
and circular.
Yeah, and you wait and you wait and you wait, and it sounds busy and it looks nice and everything appears to be going fine, and then and nothing happens.
Well, and another great Metallica song for that we'll play on the out is "Sad But True."
Isn't that the truth? And we are now at the point to where it doesn't matter what level you're looking at, whether it's a municipal level, a state level, a federal government level, that statement still feels like it holds true right now. You wait and you wait and you wait, and there's a lot of activity. Everybody looks busy. The boss is coming, but nothing is actually accomplished.
Yeah, well, you're the boss, right? You can hide from yourself.
Yes. Well, see, that's part of the problem. There is not an elected official on the planet who is the boss.
No, the
boss. The boss is the one that voted to send them there.
That's right.
We have completely lost track of that nuance. It feels like. Anyway, I saw a thing, and maybe I'm mistaken on this, or it's probably changed since then. But it was a week or two ago, to where this session of Congress in Washington has passed 10 bills total.
Well, yeah, they've been working hard, though.
Yeah.
I heard the pizza app was blowing up last night around the Pentagon, Capitol Hill. So, 275% increase in phone calls. So those 5 senators were hungry, huh?
Don't get me started. In case you don't know what he's talking about, this is extremely breaking news that overnight the Senate passed, you'll understand the need for the air quotes in a moment, passed a funding bill to fund most of the Department of Homeland Security. It'll fund the TSA. It'll fund all of these things. It did strip ICE and Border Patrol out.
Yep.
But it did pass. I am seeing reporting everywhere, Lance, that it passed unanimously in the Senate.
Yeah.
I am getting really, really tired of seeing that misconstrued at all levels. Technically, on paper, yes, it passed unanimously through a process called unanimous consent. What that means is they bring it up, they say it's up for the vote, and then the person bringing it up says, so moved that this be passed by unanimous consent, there being no opposition from anyone on the floor. At that point, anyone can raise their hand and go, nope, I object. And the whole thing falls apart and you got to go through the whole process. That's how this was passed at 2:20 this morning. You know for a fact Chuck Schumer was not awake at 2:20. Mitch McConnell hadn't been awake since 7:30.
If then.
In fact, when this was done, when they pulled their little slick maneuver, there were a grand total of 5 of the 100 senators that were actually on the Senate floor. There were 5 senators present. John Thune, the majority leader, Eric Schmidt from Missouri, Bernie Moreno from Ohio, and then a couple of Democrats, Brian Schatz and Andy Kim. Schatz from Hawaii, Kim from New Jersey.
Those are the guys that did not get to go home early. They were the basically kind of like the patsies. They were the freshmen that you haze and you say, hey, you got to stay here and do this. And
you've got to have. You got to have somebody there, you know. So these were the other 4. I mean, Thune is Thune. He's the majority leader, so he was kind of going to be there. The other 4, though, 2 Republican, 2 Democrats, you notice. Those were the sacrificial lambs because those 4 do still have the onus, especially those 2 Democrats, of people being able to truthfully say, well, why didn't you object? You could have stopped the whole thing. Why didn't you? So they threw these 2 under the bus to take the hit for everybody else. But now, well, it's done. It's through. But then we turn around and you go right now to ABC, NBC, any of the major news outlets, and all they say is that the Senate passed it unanimously. That is misreporting. That misleads you and gives you a false sense of what happened. You have an image of all the senators are there. They called a vote and every one of them voted for it. No. They called for unanimous consent. Bernie Moreno was presiding. So he called for unanimous consent, and the other 4 that were in the room didn't say, no, wait, stop. And so it passed unanimously. So when you hear that reporting, when you're told that this passed the Senate unanimously, 95 of the 100 senators weren't even in the room. Now this is after 40 plus days of fighting back and forth and voting over and over and over and over with no result, and this is how you're going to worm your way out of it?
It's interesting, too, trying to read through it. 42-day stalemate over funding for DHS, but basically they've decided that they do not want to pay ICE. They don't want to fund ICE. Everything else is on the table. But, hey, let's make sure the border is porous again. Customs is getting funded, it looks like. But the ICE side, it says there will be no new limits on immigration enforcement. Okay, but you're saying you don't want to fund ICE. It's a really weird one to me. I've still trying to. As the dust settles and you see the sun break, maybe we'll get some more clarity out of this.
It's even stupider when you realize that ICE was funded in the one big beautiful bill. Right. They got $70-something billion.
$75 billion for ICE operations in the big beautiful bill. That's right.
The people that are supposedly the target of this haven't missed a paycheck yet.
Yeah. And that's what makes all this so strange is it's TSA and several others that are not getting paid, but yet ICE is the target. And yet this is how you solve this problem.
Yes, it's exactly like if you and I got into a big SuperTalk argument over, whether or not Rhino was doing a proper job, and we decided we were going to hold everything up and we were going to stop payday and teach him a lesson about this. So we're going to make sure that he still gets his check, but Borky has to figure out how to take out a payday loan. That would be the process that we're going through right now with this.
It's bizarre. I listening to it this morning, and as I was getting ready, I was like, man, some of this just does. It seems like ICE has already been funded through the big beautiful bill, but then here $75 billion. But here we go going, we're not going to fund ICE, but Customs and TSA and Coast Guard, all these other things are going to be taken care of. And it's obvious the Democrats want open borders. We've seen that. But, man, I mean, the in-your-face way of pushing is it's a new era when you see an entire party embrace something such as that. And not having Republicans really haven't been able to stop it, other than sitting up here, 42-day stalemate over funding for DHS?
Do away with the filibuster and we can do whatever we want. But no, we don't have the intestinal fortitude, as John Madden used to say, to actually do what needs to be done to get done what has to be done.
And so nuking the filibuster versus keeping it, explain that, because we've heard this so many times. I've been through it in my head 1,000 times. But as we've seen a 42-day stalemate. Obviously, the filibuster's been on the table as nuking it or not nuking it. And when we come back from the break, explain to our listeners how this process would work much better in a different context.
Yes, I would be delighted to get into this conversation. Normally we're light and fluffy at the first part of the day. I blame the Senate. It's their fault.
They kept us up too late.
If they didn't have a faux vote at 2:20 this morning, we'd be talking about, movies, something, music, knitting. I'd something, but no, we're having to start the day with this, and we'll continue down this road with this discussion next. Keep it here.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Now in darkness, world stops turning. Ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power. And as God has struck the hour.
What a bumper.
Day of judgment, God is calling.
Lance is dialed in. He brought his A game this morning. Welcome back to Mornings, presented by the fine folks at Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net, where you can go to find out more about all the fantastic things they can do for you in your life, whether it be business or personal.
Hey, and they're not going to filibuster you or require a cloture either. So
No.
So as we digress, fancy words. We hear all this stuff all the time. Filibuster, cloture, all these things, obstructionism, and basically you're talking a bill to death. Explain this. So in this setting now, where we are, how getting rid of the filibuster and what it is would help us move forward.
Well, the problem is, at a baseline level, America is so divided politically that you're very rarely going to have 60 senators from one party. Cloture requires 60 votes to pass a law, to break a filibuster, to make a change, to do anything, basically, as it's represented. When we talk about nuking the filibuster, you basically go in and change Senate procedure, which can be done with just a simple majority. In other words, the 50-plus senators on the Republican side, if they took a leaf out of the Democratic playbook and voted in lockstep, could make this happen. It's referred to as nuking the filibuster because that's dramatic. Oh, it's going to destroy everything. There will be a blast radius. It'll be so bad. There are several problems here. Number one, everyone seems to think that this is a long established thing and this is part of the way everything works. It's not in the Constitution. Cloture did not exist until the mid-1800s. They did away with the talking filibuster because nobody was using it, which to me is the ideal situation. By the way, it almost didn't pass because they almost filibustered the motion to get rid of the filibuster to death. They almost talked it out.
So they gerrymandered the filibuster.
Yes. But here's the thing. Even going back to that, Here's a fun fact about nuking the filibuster, and this is why semantics and word choice are so important, and they are so good at it in Washington. It's happened twice in the last 25 years. In 2013 and in 2017, the Senate used the procedure that's called nuking the filibuster to get rid of cloture in debate on nominations for the Supreme Court, for federal judgeships, things like that. That only takes a simple majority now. Right? Why? Because in 2013 and 2017, the Senate nuked the filibuster. We got some awful weak nukes. They had to do it twice in 5 years.
EMP.
But to hear the discussion about it and to watch the expression on John Thune's face when it's brought up, it is an absolutely devastating thing. It's the last possible thing we'd ever want to do. How can you even bring that up right now? I'm not interested in that. We have no desire. We have no taste, no temperament for doing away with cloture. Going back to a talking filibuster on anything, because that's just not the way we do things in the Senate. Let me give you, for a comparison, the way things are done in the Senate. Do you know how they were able to pass that at 2:20 this morning to fund the DHS with only 5 senators present?
Bring it on, man.
You know, you hear that and you think that's a quorum. In the Senate, go look this up. In the Senate, they are always assumed by themselves to have a quorum unless and until somebody asks for a roll call of present members to establish that there's a quorum. So they just assume you got one senator in there. You got no senators in there. They assume that if Senate is in session, there's a quorum unless somebody objects to it.
Yeah, and then you have to either adjourn or compel absent senators to attend as well.
Yes, but that's the level of Senate procedure that we're arguing.
Right, exactly.
You know, I'm sorry, if you're running any kind of business or organization, again, I'm going to come back to SuperTalk. Let's say that Monday you don't show up, Richard doesn't show up, Rhino and Gerard don't show up. The only person shows up is Rebecca because she's a sweetie and she's going to do things like they're supposed to be done. She's the only person that shows up. Do we then assume we've got a full staff and a full slate of shows for the day just by default, unless somebody says differently? That's how the Senate operates. That's how 5 senators were able to pass this controversial thing at 2:20 this morning. Now, this same procedural mindset wants you to believe that it is the end of the universe if they bring a halt to cloture by changing the procedures and the rules in the Senate, which again, they could do with a simple majority. I mean, it's not as easy as, I want to do this, done, admittedly. But it was done in 2013. It was done in 2017. This is not something that has been in place since Moses brought it down on the stone tablets from the top of the mount. The cloture didn't exist until the middle 1850s. And even after that, it wasn't used. It really ramped up. They had in the first 20 years of this century, the 21st century, from 2000 to 2020, cloture was invoked more times during that 20 years than it had been during the previous 80 years.
Well, and this is a Senate issue, as you said. I mean, in the Senate, a senator may speak on an issue without in any way being impeded by anyone, which is extremely different, obviously, than the House of Representatives, where the speaker, generally can keep the time limit, in fact. I mean, so why do you have this rule that allows one individual to basically talk you into submission indefinitely and to block legislation or delay it or whatever it may be? Doesn't seem representative if you look at the House, where there are other procedures there. The Senate obviously gets longer term and they're more of the ivory tower when it comes to Congress. But why do you get separate rules there in that regard?
dig back a little further. And a lot of people I have found aren't aware of this. You do know the senators have not always been elected.
Yeah, they used to be appointed correctly.
They used to be appointed for each state. It was a totally separate kind of situation. It was a different House of Congress in every functional way. So at that point, yeah, it was going to have different rules. It was a different animal.
There you go. Great point.
But then we made the move over to electing our senators, but we kept all of the other rules. The original stated purpose of the Senate, in a way, this was stated, was that it was, who was it that called it the cooling saucer of democracy?
Ooh, let's see.
Shoot, I just went blank. And what they mean by that is you get a hot cup of tea and you got the little saucer under it, very, very British. That little saucer, you can set it on there and let the tea cool off so you don't burn all the skin off your tongue before you take a drink. That was the purpose of the Senate. It was supposed to be slow moving. It was supposed to be something that slowed everything down once they got done with the fist fight over in the House and had a more distinguished conversation.
I think that was a story tied to George Washington, the cooling saucer of democracy, used to describe the Senate, though. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, as is always the case, this entire concept has now become weaponized. Everything has become weaponized. So we wind up after 42 days, after an entire federal agency missing 2 paychecks, about to miss the third one if they don't get this passed in the House.
A private citizen to write the checks for them. That's
after they've stood in line at the airport for 4 to 6 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, to your point, I want the phrase attributed to the story where George Washington explained to Thomas Jefferson how to pour legislation into the senatorial saucer to cool it, just as one cools hot coffee in a saucer, takes some of the pressure off of the legislator, which, the House of Representatives.
I can think of nothing more pressure-free than 5 sleepy guys sitting in a room by themselves and nobody objecting when the guy up front says, yeah, well, let's just go ahead and do this.
Here.
Yeah. Cooling saucer. You know what's cool? The morgue.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of where some of the concept of actually getting things done, especially in the Senate, seems to have gone. Sorry. This isn't done yet, by the way, just because the Senate pulled their little happy dance this morning. Oh, no, we've still got one more step to do. At 10 o'clock, the House is convening this morning for a completely different vote. With any luck, they'll pick this up and vote one way or the other, and maybe we can get the TSA agents paid. That would be great. Swear.
From the Seabrook. Waking up, Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Super Talk, Mississippi. Mornings on a Friday morning. Normally I start Fridays all chipper and happy, and like I said in the last segment, we talk about all sorts of goofy stuff. I want to get into some goofy stuff now just to wash the taste out of my mouth at this point, but the Senate decided at 2:20 in the morning to pull a whizzer on the entire American population. They've been doing that for a month and a half now, so no big surprise.
One of the interesting facts about this, is it goes back a ways, and it really came back in 1806. Vice President Aaron Burr, or of the U.S. Senate, Aaron Burr, argued that the Senate didn't really need to create a procedure to end any type of debate on an issue because it was hardly used, as you said. And as a result, the Senate just never had a procedural mechanism in place to actually end a debate. I mean, consider that. In 1806, you could just talk until the term was over. That was it. All right, we're done. We didn't accomplish anything, but let's roll. All right, we got paid. In 1917, the Senate realized that they needed something to go, okay, we need to shut this down. That's where cloture came in. And then eventually in 75, it took a 2/3 majority rather than a super majority, or was it 3/4? So it's always been massaged a bit over time. This is not some hardcore rule of thumb that you got to have. So I appreciate you taking the time to explain it a little bit because, with all these fancy words, it's like finance. You start throwing terms out there and people just glass over and go back to work.
As they probably should.
Yeah. But this is a big deal. It is. And I'm glad that we were able to cover it this morning first.
Well, and it's a big deal because cloture is the reason why they can't pass the SAVE Act. That's so stipulated, so stated. They cannot force people to show ID to vote. They cannot, at the federal level, force you to prove you're a citizen of the country before you vote because you got to have those 60 votes to do it. That's not where hands are tied. There's nothing we can do. Here's a very prominent example of a mini nuking of the filibuster, if we're going to use that term. That's how they passed the Affordable Care Act. Go look it up.
That's a beauty, too. That one really worked.
Yeah, you didn't have 60 votes in the Senate to pass the Affordable Care Act. They passed it anyway. So, no, the excuses, we're beyond the excuses wearing thin. The excuses are gone. They're washed away at this point. And you have to think with examples as recent and as high profile as that, okay? The Affordable Care, Obamacare, was passed by doing away with cloture.
There you go.
You can't tell me this can't be done. You can't tell me this shouldn't be done. You can't tell me that functionally it's not possible to do this. It's been done, and recently.
Well,
very recently.
To your point, though, Democrats operate in lockstep with each other. Even here in Mississippi, we don't have Republicans that seem to act together. They act in, you got this group over here and that group over there, and it doesn't come together much like you see the Democrats do when it comes to big issues such as this.
Well, and, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, by definition, by default, Democrats are a faceless horde. Basically, if you think about communist principles and socialist ideas and things like that's kind of the definition. You're just another drone in service of the great collective, whereas the Republican Party is made up of a whole bunch of rugged individualists. They're going to think what they think, and that's it.
In there, you got the libertarians in there, you got the centers, you got the kind of the moderates. So. But they don't, even in the Democrat Party, which is, something we talk about, and I've studied my whole life, is you got a galvanized group of special interest in generally, how the Democrat Party's been built. The Republicans have traditionally always been more pro-business and lower taxes, strong military, pro-life, those things, secure border. And this one is the one that gets me because by the time November happens, if you don't get this worked out, everybody that you kicked out is just going to be right back here again.
Yeah. Yeah, we are less than a year. We're less than 12 months away from being right back where we were. I don't care who's sitting in the White House. We have to get some things done. Next hour. I'll get into it next hour. Remind me of this, if you would, Lance. The Democratic argument for why making people prove their citizenship to vote. I saw something on Twitter. I got to thinking about it, put a lot of thought into it, and they had a point.
Well, you're sexist and racist, Dave.
Oh, no. Look, all the points, all the arguments they're making why it's unconstitutional to make someone prove they're a citizen to vote. We as Republicans need to start agreeing with the Democrats on that.
I mean, if you can't beat them, join them. Wasn't that Bugs Bunny in them used to say?
Oh, no. You don't even know where I'm going with this. This is a beaut. Just ask me next hour because I said we were going to do
we can do weather and sports if you want.
Yeah, fluffier, happier stuff than this.
Yeah. Well, let's knock out to NCAA tournament men's side. Arkansas, Arizona. That was a big one last night. Arizona 109-88. So Arizona will advance. Purdue took out a hot Texas team, 79-77. They will advance into the 8. And then you had Illinois and Houston, another good ball game. Illinois, low scoring, though, as these things go, 65-55. Two excellent teams playing. Illinois ended up winning that one. Will advance as well. And then Iowa and Nebraska, another close one there. Iowa 77, Nebraska 71. So that sets your 8, your Elite 8 right there. Those games, obviously, will be getting kicked off. You got some more today to settle the other side of that bracket, which would be St. John's and Duke. We'll play at 6:10 p.m. on CBS. Duke's a 1 seed. Number 4, Alabama and Michigan, who is a 1 seed, 6:35 on TBS or True TV. Michigan State's a 3 going up against UConn. CBS 8:45 game. And then you have number 6 seed Tennessee and Iowa State, the number 2 at 9:10 on TBS or True TV. So that kind of catches you up there with where we are in the tournament. And to make it quick here, we have a pretty big weekend series lining up here in Oxford, Mississippi.
Oh, yeah, we got a good one this weekend.
Between the Mount Everest Mississippi State team, who is playing lights out right now, and an Ole Miss team who is struggling a little bit. Lost that one 6-2 midweek to Memphis. Was not a good game. State absolutely drubbed Southern Miss in the midweek. I think that was 12-0 in 7 innings. So State's coming off of a heater, too. Played very well against Vanderbilt, won all 3 of those, and is sitting pretty right now. Texas absolutely destroyed Oklahoma last night. So, to me, the top 2 teams in the league right now look to be Mississippi State and Texas, and they're playing like it as well. So this is going to be an epic weekend in Oxford, Mississippi, as the Dogs roll in. I always loved playing in that series. They usually got the best of us back in those days. State kind of, them and LSU kind of invented college baseball, but no, it's going to be a big weekend in Oxford. I hope everybody has a blast. It'll be first pitch today at 6:30, so a nice prime time game. Hopefully the weather's going to hold out. It looks like there could be some 20% chance of showers today after 4 with some increasing clouds. Breezy, so that's home run weather is what that means. 25-mile-an-hour out gusts of northern winds. Tonight, a 30% chance of showers after 7. Tomorrow, sunny, high near 64, clear in the evening, low around 43, so it cools off nicely. So that's kind of your outlook for the weekend so far. And then Sunday's going to be really nice. So hopefully we'll get no rain in Oxford tonight. The ball game will get played, and everybody will have a blast, and we'll not have to worry about a doubleheader tomorrow amongst these 2 absolutely wonderful Mississippi teams to come together and play this classic. Southern Miss has App State this weekend, first pitch 6 p.m. after having kind of getting boat race there on Tuesday against State in Starkville in front of 13,000 plus on a Tuesday night. I got to give these guys credit, man. Mississippi State, y'all showing out. Keep it up, dogs.
I would just like to send out a personal message to the folks at Appalachian State. USM's going to be cranky.
They're going to be a little upset, yes.
Just want to tell you right now, they're not going to be in the best of moods when you get off the bus and walk into the stadium. Prepare thyself, young men.
And then tonight in Hattiesburg area, areas of fog, otherwise mostly cloudy through the day. Tonight, increasing clouds. So I don't really see anything to worry about there with the ball game at Pete Taylor Park. So just go have a blast, guys, and the Roost will be popping. Show App State what it's all about. Get back on track. And then, dogs, goodness gracious, I'm just happy Ole Miss isn't going to Starkville this weekend after what y'all did to Vanderbilt last. Woo! So that's what I got for you in sports, guys.
Hey, Mississippi State got a real deal this year, if you ask me. They're rolling right along. But let's be honest. All of the schools have had success in all of the different sports. But in my mind, in my soul, State is a baseball school. Ole Miss is a football school.
And Southern Miss?
They're a baseball school now.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they have been. They have been back in the day. Hill Denson, thank him. He was one of the best to start it off, get it going, and they've been rolling since.
Delta State baseball school. They all have identities. We'll talk about that another time because we got to talk about your money with the Mississippi Lottery coming up next on Mornings. Keep it here.
From the Venable Glass.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
The theme song to life right there. Welcome back. Super Talk Mississippi Mornings. Dave Hughes here, Lance in the booth, and it is time to talk about the Mississippi Lottery. The big one right now is Powerball once again. 166 million, the jackpot currently. Estimated cash value on that, 75.2 million. Next drawing is going to be tomorrow night, so gear up for that. Of course, we also would be remiss if we didn't mention the Tolbert Mania game, Mississippi Match 5. No winner in the last drawing last night. It's now at $145,000. I don't remember the last time you and I talked about Mississippi Match 5 that it wasn't over $100,000 for the jackpot.
You know, it's funny because once it hits, then it resets. Within a week or so, it's already back up. So it's a great game, in my opinion, as we do this so often and talk about it every day. It pops, man. If you want to be one of those that gets hot and gets a hot ticket, that one wins. It just wins all the time.
Yeah.
Never gets that big. Every now and again, it'll get on up there, but it seems to hit so often that you're going to get a six-figure pop if you win that one.
I would just like to point out that in the world of Lance Tolbert, jet-setting millionaire, $100 and something thousand is not that big. He just said it. It never gets that big, and then it hits again. Yeah, it's only $145,000. It's only $190,000. It's not that big at all.
Hey, we're talking about $75 billion budgets and $166 million Powerball. That $100K, man, those senators couldn't even eat pizza on $100K, could they?
Yeah, that's petty cash.
Pocket cash.
You find that under the sofa cushions in the break room in the Senate.
That amongst some other stuff, too, I'm sure.
Well, we won't talk about that stuff. That's an entirely different report on TMZ later. Mississippi Lottery, by the way, going to be in the Hal St. Patty's Day Parade this weekend. You know, it's been a little delayed, but it's happening, and it's going to be a good time tomorrow in downtown Jackson. We got to do my favorite part, though, and that's looking at winners. This is what I love when we talk about the lottery. Yeah, we give a little nod to the jackpots and other things going on, but the winners, that's what matters. That's the whole point of this. Cash 4 went off. Good grief. Canton woman won $1,248. A West Point man, $2,600. A Madison woman, $2,900. Players in Louisville and Louisville and Bay Springs each won $3,303. Each one of them. Woman in Vicksburg, $5,000. A South Haven man, $7,600 on 2 tickets. Those are just the Cash 4 winners that we have to talk about. That's a lot of money going out, Lance. That's a bunch.
Oh, man. If I was more habitual, I would buy a ticket more regularly because people win all the time. But I always felt like I'm kind of unlucky with winning. I guess that's maybe part of why I don't jump in more often. It's like, yeah, it's just $5 thrown away. But hey, you got to buy them to win them, right?
They have, I've said this before, I will continue saying it into the future. They have done studies. They have done scientific research that has proven that your chances to win greatly increase when you buy a ticket.
Yes, sir.
You don't buy a ticket, you ain't getting nothing. Put it in baseball terms for you. How many times did you refuse to dress out because, we're not going to win this game anyway?
Oh, yeah, you don't do that.
Right, and you don't say, I'm not going to win, and then don't buy the ticket that could possibly send you to Cancun.
That's a good point. I gotta think more like my old baseball days. Just attack, man.
See, you got to put things in the right perspective for folks sometimes.
Hey, I want to mention this. You were talking about the St. Patty's Day Parade. This will be Mayor Horn's first St. Patty's Day Parade.
Oh, yeah, it will.
Presiding over as mayor, so I'm excited to see that because that's a big event here in Jackson. Used to have some of the concerts and things that went on downtown, but now, St. Patty's Day is the big deal.
I don't want to put undue pressure on anyone, but just a personal message to Mayor Horn. we're expecting some kind of little dance.
Yeah.
You know, shake some kind of booty in the middle of this. This is a celebration. So no pressure. Plenty of pressure. We want some kind of little dance. I don't care what it is. It could be a hoedown. It could be a two-step. It could be a shuffle. I don't care. Just the fact that the dance exists will be enough, I think.
I'm in, man. I'm in. I hope it's a great time. I won't be able to go. I hope everybody that does go have a great time. And those of you who will be out at the ball games this weekend, well, it'll be a busy weekend in Mississippi. So buy you a lottery ticket.
By the way, my message to Mayor Horn, another great example of why I'm not invited to the good parties. That's the quality of my ideas. We have news from Fox News. Well, I mean, if he doesn't do it, we're going to have to get you to do it next week. And nobody wants that, Lance.
Put on my kilt and my cowboy hat. I'm good to go.
People want it even less now. We've got Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News, and then hour number 2 of mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi next. Keep it here.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with
Welcome back to Super Talk Mississippi. This hour of mornings brought to you by MWG Employer Services. If you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not the only one. Trust me, MWG Employer Services can help you out by giving you a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits you and your business. You can call today at 601-206-7966 or give it a couple of minutes, let the coffee kick in for them, then you can call them or go to mwgemployerservices.com to find out more. Did you know that the House has a standing rule that they don't like to pass legislation on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday?
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
It seems like you might have a leader over there, too.
That's been brought up this morning already, because now this moves back over to the House for a vote. That's with right. The Senate overnight passing the funding for DHS. All 5 of the members refused to say no, so that were present.
Well, we have a nice little clip here of Speaker Johnson. He's a little red-faced. Opening day for most people yesterday in baseball. You know, Paul Skeens got lit up.
He got shelled.
He got shelled. Never seen it before. So it was one of those cold days in you-know-where. And then I got a great text this morning from one of my best friends, the garden mama, Nellie Neal. She goes, every year, just when I start to think that life is meaningless and the world is going to hell, baseball starts again. Well, I don't think Speaker Johnson was very happy with Skeens' performance, or maybe there was something else going on. Let's listen to the Speaker.
Hill is willing to fund all of the security and safety of the American people. We cannot believe it's come to that, but it has.
If the Senate gets that through the Senate, will you put it on the floor?
We'll have to see. We have to solve the problem, and it's very sad that Democrats are not interested in doing that.
Yes. Does that mean that you're not in favor of breaking the DHS funding bill apart, just funding TSA, just funding FEMA, having individual votes on each section?
We have never been in favor of breaking the bill up. Why? Because it's one of the 12 separate appropriations bills that is the most basic function of Congress to fund the government. And we did it in a bipartisan, bicameral manner. Remember, the contents of that bill were decided upon earlier by Democrats until they decided to hold the American people hostage in their long lines at the airports and with the safety of everybody on the line to make a political point. It is shameful. There is no way for them to defend this to the American people. And breaking it out I think it puts an exclamation point on what they've tried to do here. It's shameful. So many people have been through so many hardships because of this nonsense. And what we're concerned about is people may actually be hurt. More people harmed by criminal illegal aliens than are being protected by the Democrat Party. We're sick of it.
See, that's very straightforward. I love it. They're reconvening at 10 in the House this morning. They had something else already on the calendar to take a look at.
I think he either had a microneedle and retin-A peel real early in the morning, or he was a little upset because the reddest of faces I've seen with him, you can see the frustration.
It wasn't just the face. He's got a bad case of the red other body part. And I think it's justified. I think there is a certain level of frustration that continues to build on Capitol Hill as everyone runs around, well, acting stupid. I can't think of another way to put it.
It's discombobulated at best, right? I mean, it seems that you have one side of the House, led by Speaker Johnson, very orderly, very to the point. The other side, the Senate over here, shenanigans. It's like lunch on Office Space, right? I mean,
well, let's talk about the Mississippi legislature, the finely oiled machine showing up the folks in Washington and explaining to them exactly how it's done through their deeds. I don't know if you saw House Speaker Jason White put out a thing yesterday. This thing that he put out basically was saying that he wants a special session called to deal with the pharmacy benefit manager reform. 16 hours ago, Jason White posted this on Facebook. For the third, I'm going to read part of it. For the third consecutive year, the House has tried to provide relief for independent pharmacists with PBM reform. However, the Senate has repeatedly taken this legislation too far, placing the cost burden on the shoulders of Mississippi's patients. He goes on a little bit further. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Then he gets down and says, to continue the legislature's efforts on this issue, the House is requesting Governor Tate Reeves call a special session within this regular session to address PBM reform. Now, that's happened before. You call a special session in the middle of a session, and as a result, you don't incur the extra expenses of calling a special session, in June. Or some other time, theoretically, but it's still taking the place of other business that's supposed to be going on, because once a special session is called, until you deal with the topic of the special session, you can't do anything else. That's your focus at that point. So that was the call put out by House Speaker Jason White in the Mississippi legislature yesterday. He wants Governor Reeves to call a special session within the session to deal with pharmacy benefit management reform. Here is my question. And this applies at all levels, but we're talking about the state legislature, so let's focus there for a second. Do the folks at the Capitol realize that they have just about played out all the line they've got to play, and people are tired of the games and kicking the can down the road and talking a good game but not scoring any runs once they shall play ball? Because that has been the modus operandi for a while in some areas. Referendum. How many years we've been talking about that? 5 now? Nothing. We got nothing. Pharmacy benefit manager reform. As the speaker says here, they've been trying on this for years and can't get it across the finish line. But, we got to do something special. This is the most heartfelt, well-meaning, best advice I can give to the members of the House and the Senate in the Mississippi legislature. You may not realize it. Some do. I've talked to some, and they are fully aware of this. But just, a handful of people can't get anything done. That's by design. Otherwise, we'd have chaos. But at some point, you have to fish or cut bait, and people are getting tired. Voters are getting tired of the games and the back and forth nonsense. And I would like to remind everyone, we have a state election year coming up. Maybe now is not the time to continue with business as usual. It's Dave's opinion here. But now we're on this, an issue that has come up, according to Speaker Jason White in his post yesterday, for the third consecutive year. 3 years in a row, and they've gotten nothing done on it. That's not a good move. You have to do something.
Well, how many issues are we dealing with here? Mobile gaming, ABC, PERS, school choice, school consolidation, Medicare, PBMs, rural hospitals, the farmer, the capital city, the Delta, MEMA, MDOT, workforce participation rate, unemployment, job openings, teacher shortages, much, much more.
Let me just say this. Let me put this in a reframe here. When the list of issues you have failed to deal with for years is longer than the ballot come election day, you may be in trouble.
That was kind of where I was going with that. These are issues that have been ongoing for multiple sessions, and we've seen very little resolve on any of them.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, that's the way the whole process works, and I'm getting real tired of hearing that expression. But that is the way the process works. First year something comes up, it might happen, but you got 50-50 odds that it's not, and you're going to have to come back and hit it again next year. But by next year, you better have some visible progress.
Well, and there are going to be new issues that you have to deal with as time passes also. So those that you've put on the back burner for next time, guess what? There's going to be new problems too.
Yes, so sooner or later, we have to actually do some business. And I'm sorry, sitting around and bickering and not actually accomplishing or passing anything is not business. I don't care how hard you try to fool yourself. The voters, the taxpayers, don't view that as business. They don't view that as progress because it's not. So we're going to have to knuckle down and actually get some things done, passed, and put into place instead of the I just got to say, election year is going to be a blast if we're going to continue down this path.
Yeah. Goodness.
We'll continue after this on Super Talk Mississippi.
That's how it happened, living life by the drive.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
What's happening across your state? Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back. A few seconds delay getting back. Had a staff meeting.
That's how it works off air, man.
Yeah. Lance and I do a lot of communicating during the commercial breaks.
Yeah, Richard's hilarious, too, because I'll blow him up. And he's like, man, get an iPhone. I'm tired of reading these green bubbles.
You know, I never would have guessed Richard would be a snob about something. I've got an Android. I don't care.
I'm an Android man. I'm one of those smart people. And as I say, I feel I'm invested in the Korean economy by now. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. It's like they would actually notice, if I did not have because, they're snooping too. So
yeah.
What happened to our best client, this Lance guy?
Well, I've never had an iPhone ever.
I haven't either, yeah.
It's been Android, it's been, Nokias and Razors and everything else. I've never had an iPhone.
What would have been the best skipping rocks off the water? How many, you could get 5 or 6? What's the best phone you think you could have skipped? I'd say the Razor. That thing was perfect for frisbeeing and skipping.
Probably the Razor, yeah. I mean, the old original Nokia brick phone would have sank like an anchor. That's not going to work.
Like dropping a rock in there. Kaboom.
Okay, guy, you didn't have to remind me. I got back to it because we did in the Mississippi legislature pass it to where only citizens are allowed to vote in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
sent to Governor Reeves' desk. Well, I mentioned this last hour that the Democrats are screaming and going, "Oh my goodness, this is unconstitutional. This is horrible to try to force someone to prove they're a citizen before we allow them to vote. You can't do that. That violates their rights." Couple of things here, and we have discussed it at length, that the arguments that they make, and the one that they think was the winner because they keep trotting it out, is that a married woman is not going to be allowed to vote because she can't possibly be smart enough, silly little girl, to go and get her marriage certificate, her marriage license, and her birth certificate, and her driver's license, and take them one time to the courthouse and get everything sorted out if it's not already. Oh, well, it can't possibly be intelligent enough to do that.
Sure.
So it's insulting to begin with.
Of course.
Same thing with Jim Crow 2.0. So you're saying black people are stupid? Is that the thrust of your argument? That's a winner. That's a good job. Morons. But there's a different approach here. And I'm cribbing this out of a Twitter post, which I thought was great. It was actually an educator that came up with this. Said we need to quit arguing against this. We need to use it to our benefit. We need to tell the Democrats, okay, so you're saying we shouldn't be forced to prove our citizenship and show an ID to vote because that violates constitutional rights. It's not constitutional to make them do that. That's the argument, right?
That's what they say.
All right, then. If that's going to be the standard for constitutional rights, we shouldn't have to show ID to buy a gun.
There you go.
That's a whole amendment all by itself. Second Amendment. You have the right to bear arms. It shall not be infringed. Nowhere in there does it say anything about proving you're an American citizen or showing ID to get one. So, Democrats, you don't get to pick and choose. This is not Sunday school where you go through the Bible and pick out just the verses that seem to back up whatever point you're trying to make today. This is the real world. If it's unconstitutional, if it's violating constitutional rights to expect someone to show ID and prove their citizenship to vote, well, same thing's got to apply to buying a gun. So you're for just free sales of firearms.
Oh, yeah.
Because here's the thing. In terms of constitutional law, in terms of application of the Constitution, the argument I've seen made, well, yes, but, nobody is going to fill out a ballot and shoot someone with it. I would argue the ballot is more dangerous than a gun.
Yeah. Power of the pen is mightier than the sword, brother.
Especially with the level of marksmanship I've seen out of some people at the range. They're going to do more damage with the ballot than they ever would with the gun. By the way, if you're going to get a gun, learn to use it. Learn to hit the target. Put a hole in the paper. Bare minimum. That's bare minimum. Otherwise, you probably shouldn't have it. Just carry a brick. You can throw it and probably do more damage. But
they give them out in big cities, I think, at protest time.
Oh, yeah,
There's
pallets
a pallet of them sitting over there.
So that's why they do that and not guns. I'm sorry, there are plenty of people that they are more dangerous to themselves if they're holding a gun than someone else. But you go through this process and you realize that's the only argument. Is that, well, yes, but we've got to have an ID for you to exercise that constitutional right and a background check and everything. I got to check into you and make sure you're an appropriate person to be allowed to own a firearm. But that's not a violation of constitutional rights in the democratic mind. Oh, no, that's the way it should be. Mm-hmm. Well, but to vote, oh, no. You just let them walk in the door as long as their neighbor says, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. He can vote. Oh, I got plenty of people that'll walk in and go, oh, yeah, Dave, he's a good guy. He's a good shot. Give him a gun. Why are we going to go with differing standards on these two constitutional topics?
It blows my mind. It does. It's just similar to, do you want a bunch of illegals in your country? No, you don't. Do you want people voting that aren't citizens? Or do you want dead people voting? You want people voting 3 times? I mean, these are common sense answers. You go, no. I mean, these are no's. At what point did these become yeses? Or maybe, yeah, that's a pretty good idea, Dave. Yeah, let's let people vote 3 times, and then the cemetery over there, yeah, let's let them vote too. And and all these people that flooded this country, millions upon millions, let's let them vote. Yeah,
here's the thing.
Logical.
It never became true. It never became a yes answer. It's only functionally a yes answer for the people that stand to benefit from answering yes to that question, because they deep down know it's nonsense.
Well, let's think of the H-1B program. And again, I'm not picking on anybody, but when, 80% of them are coming from India, that's a third world country. So you're telling me that's the brightest people on the planet, and therefore those that work for 57% less wages here than the average American. You're telling me that you're hiring the best and the brightest, or are you telling me that you're hiring somebody that can do the basic stuff that you need them to do for half the price?
As you know, that's the way free market capitalism works. The better you are, the less you get.
There you go. Well, and especially when you recruit 900,000 of them. And the other point I make, you're telling me that we can't educate in 30 plus years enough people to take the 900,000 jobs in tech? No, that means you just have to pay those people twice as much.
Well, I'm going to have to step in on that one, because we've got a lot of problems in America with the educational system.
I agree.
It's hard to train. It's hard to train people in coding and computer work and all these complicated subjects and areas and job areas when we're spending half of their time trying to debate what a woman is. So, it's a matter of focus as much as anything.
I love it, yeah. I mean, you're right, though. I mean, that's exactly kind of where the focus is not in the right place. It's like if you're a pitcher and you're focusing on the Batgirl while you're trying to pitch, it's probably not going to add up very well for you. You kind of need to be focusing on the mitt,
Depends on your goal. Yeah. If you get enough winks in before you strike out, you might have a date to prom. It might
work out better. Yeah, exactly.
Depends on what you're shooting for here.
Perspective, as you say.
Yeah, you want to increase your on base percentage? Watch the ball. You want to just increase your overall percentage? Keep your eye on the Batgirl. See, it's all about your purpose, your goal,
I think
what you're driving
towards.
You're
nailing it right there, man.
So I would just like to be the first one, to my knowledge, to congratulate Democrats for so perfectly making the argument that we shouldn't have background checks to buy guns.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to have more and not have a background check on mine.
Buying a gun is having a gun, owning a gun is a constitutional right. Voting is a constitutional right. You can't say background checks are an absolute necessity for one constitutional right, and for the other one, we'll just take anybody that walks through the door that has a pulse. And in some cases, people that don't have a pulse, but somebody was able to put a stamp on an envelope with their name on it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're done with the double standards here. If that applies, that applies. So I'd like to thank you, everybody, all the Democratic leaders who are against voter ID, citizenship verification, background checks, if you will, to vote. I would like to thank you for being in support of doing away with background checks to buy firearms. Thank you. We appreciate the work that you're doing there.
I'm getting a Gatling gun.
When we come back, that's going to liven up the drive-thru. When we come back, our buddy Professor Christopher Green from The Ohio State University will join us. We got a lot of stuff right along the same topic line to talk about, including the Supreme Court discussion this week involving Mississippi.
From the Seabrook.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
When in doubt, move on. No need to sort it out. You're with me now. We'll be again. Other points in between.
Welcome back. SuperTalk Mississippi Mornings, presented by the folks at Community Bank. They are more than just a place to manage your money. They're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors for decades. They've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Now, whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or just growing your business, they're there for you every step of the way. They're dedicated to their customers, committed to your success, and always there when you need them at Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Well, it's been a week full of days that end in Y, which means this week the word Mississippi was said in Supreme Court deliberations. It seems like we are continuously in there, so we're going back to our old friend of the show here, expert in these matters from the Ohio State University, professor at Ohio State University Law School, Professor, the one and only Christopher Green. How you doing this morning, Prof?
Doing well.
Why is it suddenly, are we just that good? Are we just that cutting edge? It feels like every other week almost we have a Mississippi-related case with a lot of impact nationally that comes up in front of the Supreme Court.
Well, this one, so it is a little unusual for Mississippi to show up. So the one last week, the case from Brandon about habeas corpus and all this procedural stuff, that just happened to be this one sentence in a court case that the Fifth Circuit, so the Fifth Circuit is Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. A lot of the Fifth Circuit cases that go up tend to be the ones where they're picking these districts in Texas where you know what judge you're going to get. Mississippi, you don't really know what judge you're going to get. So we don't produce litigation in the Supreme Court because people are picking their district judge. This happened to just be the Mississippi Republican Party. Mike Hurst, I think, was the kind of leader of the litigators on this. And he said, hey, looking at this statute, seems like it doesn't really fit with what they've been doing since COVID about letting ballots take a while to come in. Took a close look at it, and basically, so I've been hearing about this argument that had been getting made for years, and I think it just really is some local intellectual leadership from the Republican Party. Scott Stewart, the Solicitor General, he won Dobbs a couple years ago, and he's doing his best to defend the state at the Supreme Court. They clearly respect him a lot. I could tell from how the justices respond to him that they, so he's the one who asked the Supreme Court to review it. It was a sufficiently interesting ruling that it wasn't surprising that they granted review. Listen, but usually you think if they say they're going to review something, they're skeptical of the argument below. Here, it really did seem like the Supreme Court was going to agree. It seems like in terms of counting to 5 votes, you can't be perfectly sure, but it seems like they are going to take the rule that the Fifth Circuit adopted and say it's nationwide. The ballots have to get in by the actual the day of the election day, the Tuesday next after the first Monday in November, as the statute says. So it looks like that, but it's when it rains it pours, but it just happens to be, frankly, this week.
Now, here there are several questions rolled up into this that I have. I did listen to some of the arguments as well because, like you, I am a party animal. This is what I do for fun. But it did seem like probably we've got a majority when they come time to actually issue a ruling. To rule in that direction to where election day, and that's an integral part of the discussion, is the fact that it says election day, not election week, or not election 5-day period. And that kind of goes to the essence of the law in general, doesn't it? Words are extremely important when it comes to deciding law, especially at the Supreme Court level, right?
That's right. You with words, you frequently will have kind of implicit exceptions. based on history. There was some talk about that. So, we were, talk about the Second Amendment. So, disarming, various groups of people. I had a couple of cases at the Supreme Court this term. But what the court has done with, the right of the people to keep and bear arms is they said, well, there's certain historical exceptions, the freedom of speech. So a couple of the justices who were more on the left, Justice Jackson, Justice Sotomayor, they say, well, maybe we should Bruinize. So Bruin is the case that allows public carry and establishes this tradition-based way of figuring out the right to keep and bear arms. Somebody said, well, maybe the day for the election, we should look at traditional stuff to figure that out. The problem is there's not nearly as much of a pattern of common law decision making. I mean, this is something that the legislature has to say what it is. It's not like for hundreds of years we've had guns and then the legislature is kind of coming in and regulating. No, this entire process is set up by the government. So I don't think they're going to say like, oh yeah, we have to delve into tradition and give the government a burden of proof of proving that there's a certain kind of restriction or something. They're going to look at the words. They're going to look at them in context. They're going to actually, one of the things they're going to do, they're going to look at how the words are readopted at different points in time. So this is language that's initially adopted in 1845. During the Civil War, we have a whole bunch of sort of distance voting situations. Some of those involve ballots getting schlepped back to the states. Some of them involve just actual battlefield commanders saying, okay, it's election day. I am deputized on behalf of the state of X to take your ballots. They actually hold an election on that day. 1872, there's some reenacted. So there's some kind of very technical questions about whether the 1872 reenactment is the one that matters. And if that's the date, well, then all the Civil War stuff will be relevant. Civil War stuff will be relevant in terms of interpreting 1845. You think, well, it's just a few years later. It's probative. But then there's 1914. There's a much later statute that anyway, just a whole bunch of technical stuff about putting words into different statutes and whether they're trying to get uniformity, whether they're adopting the old readings. That kind of thing. But as you say, it's catnip for people who love details. So my boy's doing engineering. I'm like, well, the engineering, trying to figure out how to get all these different parts to work together into a machine. It works with the law too.
Well, and what you're talking about there is something that I think is fairly poorly understood. I'm not saying it's not understood at all, just not to any depth. And that's the fact that the law, even the Constitution, is not some monolithic structure that is ever unchanging and forever locked in stone. It's continually being reinterpreted, being rejudged, being reformulated in some way to fit the times. Because, I'm sorry, we're living in a slightly different world than they were in 1845. So you're going to have a different situation, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this actually showed up at one point. So Mississippi, we have a law that says if you're overseas, so the problem of military voting has continued to be an issue. But if you're overseas, Mississippi has a statute that says, or regulation maybe, says you can email in your ballot. So you have to be overseas. You can't be just at home and think, it's too humid to get out today or something. It's only if you're overseas. So given that kind of technology, you might say, well, it's easier to comply with this. Even during the Civil War, they went to great efforts to have the election or have the process happen on that particular day. Now it's even easier for the exceptional cases. But the technology for getting things places more quickly. Technology for kind of just recovering your mail was one thing that got discussed. So Gorsuch really pressed quite vehemently and I think pretty effectively this type of saying, well, what if you have stuff in the mail and then somebody, some scandal erupts on the Wednesday, the day after Election Day, and then the guy who lost by just a smidge says, hey, call, if you voted for this guy and now you regret it, call FedEx or call the U.S. Postal Service and get them to recall your vote, and they'll do that. So There was a lot of discussion about whether that's allowed under Mississippi law, how it could be enforced. But that hypo really was pretty devastating for the Mississippi side. Solicitor General Stewart, he really had, there's not a whole lot in the statute that you can use to push back against those hypos. So questions like, could you give it to somebody else besides FedEx or the Postal Service? Could you just give it to your homeowners association, or just give it yourself? So just individual people. By the theory that Mississippi has been pushing here, a person could just write out their ballot and just sort of get it to the election officials at some point, whenever they decide is okay, all the way up to January 3rd, which would be really kind of bonkers. But just given the sparsity of the text, there's no real good way to limit it. The only limit that you've got that makes any sense is receipt by the officials by the election day.
When we come back after the break, I want to talk about if the Supreme Court rules that the 5-day time limit goes away, what happens next? We're talking to Christopher Green.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Small wheel turn by the fire and God. Big wheel turn by the grace of God. Every time that wheel turn round, bound to cover just a little more ground.
Welcome back. Professor Christopher Green at The Ohio State University joining us. We're talking about the arguments that have been going on regarding Mississippi's regulation saying that ballots are counted as long as they arrive within 5 days of Election Day, after Election Day. These rules were kind of modified because of COVID, and now the argument is, well, COVID's over. We go back to normal, and Election Day is Election Day. As you and I were talking from the arguments, as much as you could pick things up this way, it feels like we've got a better than even chance that the court will rule that the 5-day limit should not stand, should go away. That ruling would come probably June, maybe July. That's getting really close to the elections this November. Is that going to go into effect then?
Well, this is something the court thought about a little bit. So there's this principle trying to discourage people from having disruptive litigation right before an election. Justice Kavanaugh said, well, if we do go with what the RNC is saying, would the end of June be early enough? He actually asked this of the challengers, Paul Clement, and he said, "Oh, sure," which it would have been interesting to know what Solicitor General Stewart would have said about that question. He didn't bring it up though, so he could have. He would have. He has a really scarce amount of time for rebuttal. So if he had decided to kind of throw up a fallback position, saying, well, if you do it, please just let us do 2026 the way it is. So essentially, we send out these ballots, these different absentee ballot forms. There is stuff on the form generally that says, as long as you postmark it by the election day and it gets in by 5 days, it'll be good. So presumably we'd have to print up new. I guess it depends on where it is, right? So if it's some sort of special form, you'd have to print up stickers or something. If you're talking about forms that would have to go through a Scantron, the thickness of the stickers or something. It seems, this isn't nearly as complicated as some of the redistricting stuff. The redistricting stuff would be like, okay, we've got have to set up different precincts and send information different places. Again, even with the technology, you think, well, you could, kind of be ready to have these kind of things. It seems pretty clear that this would apply to 2026. They haven't really been. I mean, they haven't been hair on fire, urgent about having the oral argument right away. So, for instance, the tariffs case, when they granted review, they said, "Oh, and we'll have the argument just as soon as we can." And then they kind of seem to take their time getting the opinion out for reasons that we sort of understand once we saw those opinions. But here, the only indication, there is this doctrine that they could use to delay it. There's various doctrines they use to delay the impact of decisions. Many years ago, when they said the bankruptcy courts are unconstitutional, they said, of course, we're not going to completely undo all the bankruptcies. Congress has time to enact something. Mississippi Supreme Court, actually, when they said there's no sovereign immunity, the legislature can come back and have a modified form. Legislature kept coming back and putting it off, and eventually the Mississippi Supreme Court said, no, we've got to have a rule. They kind of made up a kind of a wacky justification for that. But there's a lot of discretionary questions in terms of remedial doctrines. So you try to do the best you can given the circumstances. But here, it does seem like it would be maybe the particular states where they, have more complicated ways of doing it. You might have an argument that this isn't enough time, but it certainly seems like enough time. The overseas ballots, they have to get out by 45 days out. So, but backing up, I mean, this is, it's June to November. I mean, that's a whole bunch of months, and it's not that complicated. Even for governments, they ought to be able to get things printed in time.
Well, the reason why I asked that is you and I both know what the argument against it is going to be if the Supreme Court rules that way. This is going to cause chaos. We're going to hear that from someone, no matter how complicated or uncomplicated it is. So I just wanted to get a little read for, to see if there was something I'm missing, because it looks like it should be fairly easy to implement.
Yeah, and the rule that the RNC is pushing for, actually, is very much an anti-chaos rule, where you're not going to have the opportunity to have people, sending in whole bunches of mail-in ballots and the kind of the ballot harvesting stuff. When you have a time, it's still allowed in terms of you can still have mail-in ballots, absentee ballots, but giving people so much more time to send it in is there's much less room for mischief if you have a deadline, which does seem like the statute imposes at least some kind of deadline. There's you have to do some interpretive moves to explain all the different details. Early voting is one thing they're like, well, how if it's the day, why are you allowed to allow people early? So they say, well, if you understand election to mean final election. So on the day of election, then all of these things have been sitting around. The early votes, well, then they become actual choices.
Professor Christopher Green,
Good morning, everybody.
Time to wake up.
Time to shine! Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Didn't get to it, obviously, but last hour of mornings brought to you by MWG Employer Services. You can call them today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com for more information. Right now, we're joined by a guy if I have a hero at this point, it would be this gentleman, I think. Mr. John Evans, the owner of Lemuria Books, and I want to tell you something. I am an addict for a good bookstore, no matter what. And boy, did you create just a monolith of bookstores in Lemuria. Welcome to the show. How you doing this morning, John?
I'm very fine, and I appreciate you being interested, and especially the kind words about the bookstore. It's meant a lot to me in my life, and I hope it's served the community as well as you just spoke about it.
Now, 50 years. It's hard to keep anything going for 50 years. Have there been any points during that 50 years where you started getting that little feeling going, well, this is it. It may be coming to an end now?
Well, I think every small business challenged by COVID, and the idea of whether you're going to give in or figure it out. And it was a big puzzle for small businesses in Mississippi, and we were able to adjust and be able to get through and build our online business, which now accentuates the store, and we have national customers, and they actually support the local business in a lot of ways, and people travel through stock constantly.
Well, and that was, if there's a good thing that came out of COVID, it's that businesses like your bookstore kind of future-proof themselves, because if something similar happens again, well, you've already got those online mechanisms in place. You're not going to have to make it up from scratch, and you're ready to go.
Well, that's, I think that's a good point, because you never know what's going to happen. And, I've been doing this so long, I've seen so many cycles from inflation in the last round in 79 to just everything. It's small business challenge, and you have to completely adjust all the time. It's always changing.
50 years. What's the biggest change you've seen as a bookstore owner over the last 50 years?
Probably Amazon and the change of the consumer mentality and the way that it adjusted the competitive nature downstream from the publishers, and how it changed our abilities to try to be a good bookstore and bring writers to Mississippi. And it just was a tough competition when they use your product as loss leader to build its customer base, and gives you the impression that everything's at cost, and it's not.
Well, the beautiful part about it, though, is to combat that kind of approach, that kind of mindset, you have to differentiate yourself. You have to set yourself apart in some way that they can't imitate through a phone screen. And what you just mentioned about bringing writers to Mississippi and being so locally focused and being so involved in the community, to me, that is the gold standard way to do it, because Amazon is never going to put 1 second's worth of thought into trying to get writers to Mississippi.
Well, and, the whole purpose, I think, of small business and surviving in such a competitive environment is to figure out ways to add value, figure out ways to be part of your community. For us, it was bringing writers that we love, and it was supporting the writers that we have here. And, of course, so many great friends have supported the bookstore. And small business is about making friends. And I keep telling young people all the time that, you support yourself with friendship. You give friendship to support others. And that's the magic of what books are. They have a wide variety of customer base that you have the ability to expose yourself to. And my customer base is just so interestingly broad. You never have the same conversation again, almost.
Well, and the neat thing about that, you mentioned the writers in Mississippi, and we have a very creativity-minded history in Mississippi, whether you're looking at music, whether you're looking at any form of art, but especially when it comes to writing. We have had some giants of the field that came from Mississippi, and you've had quite a few of them walk through your door, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. And Ms. Welty was just a great friend of the bookstore, and whenever she had a writer visit, she would always bring them to her bookstore and show them her bookstore. And, that gives you a lot of, when you have a bad business day and you have people that care about you in the community of that kind of stature, and they become your friend. She'll do what you would do, anything to help the store, because it was her store. And we had Ellen Gilchrist and Barry Hannah and just on and on and on of Mississippi writers. And they cared about what we were doing. And we worked with Square Books and Richard Holworth in Oxford, and we palled up to work together to bring writers to Mississippi. And I think it's helped. Of course, John Grisham helped readers in Mississippi. If he hadn't been, he brought people into the bookstore like no one else could. Got people reading, got people caring about books. So it's about friendship, caring about the community, trying to add to the community, and just doing your job the best you can.
Well, it's a great example because the 50th anniversary, you're tying it in with the Mississippi Book Festival this year for basically I'm going to say it's a literary blowout on April 11th. Is that a good term, you think, John?
I don't really know. It's something we've been working on. It was kind of somebody said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to throw a party. And so we're going to close the store, and we've been working together with the Book Festival and Velocity and Cathead and putting together a team, and I couldn't have done it without all these people. And they care about the store, and we thought, well, what are we going to do? And so we started putting the puzzle together, and I think we've created a day that appeals to 3 different markets, and the bookstore appeals to different markets. And so the idea of having a kids' afternoon, a few hours, then have an author celebration, and then have a soul blues throwdown under the moonlight. And it's come together. It's a pretty good song list for Saturday night. And great talent, music all day.
It goes back to what we were talking about a moment ago. We are so culturally and creatively rich in the state of Mississippi. I think it was a brilliant move to bring as much of that as you could together and have a specific part of it for the kids, because that's where it all begins. There's a lot more people that turn into rabid readers as a kid than there are that turn into rabid readers after they turn 50. You get them young and indoctrinate them, right, John?
Right. And then, the real wonderful thing is I've been doing business so long that I've got, it's one of my great pleasures is to see 3 generations coming in the store at the same time. And grandparents, grandchildren, and kids that grew up in the store that are now family raisers. That's a real reward, and I'm very gracious when that happens.
Well, it is a rewarding thing, and it's proof that you're doing something worthwhile with this little piece of dirt that you have claimed for yourself in the history of planet Earth. 50 years is nothing to sneeze at, but boy, have you had an impact over those 50 years on a lot of people's lives. Have you ever stopped to think, just rough estimate, how many lives you have impacted with Lemuria? I mean, it's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe.
Well, you mentioned the COVID and the adjustment and the web world and all of that. You really don't know how many people that you never see physically. You don't know how many people ever walk in the store, but they buy books to read, and they care about what you're doing. And the repeat business is the reward in Jackson and outside of Jackson. So I think we've probably touched a few folks.
Well, you just heard John himself say it's hard to count, so I'm just going to go ahead and say millions. Yeah, at this point. But, hey, if nobody can double-check your work, you claim what you can claim, right, John?
Well, let's hope we can keep going until we hit 1 million. That would be wonderful.
April 11th, the 50th anniversary celebration of Lemuria Bookstore, tied in with the Mississippi Book Festival. It's going to be a fantastic time, and you need to go ahead and put it on your calendar right now. John Evans, I appreciate you.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I wonder what it's like to be a superhero. So if I could fly around downtown.
Just want to follow up with one thing after that conversation with John Evans, owner of Lemuria Bookstore. Stop by there. If you've never been by there, go.
What a place.
If you have been by there, it's been too long. Go again. And just walk in and browse around, and you'll leave with something, and you'll be happy about it. I am a bookstore addict at the best of times.
I love a good used book, too.
Oh, yeah, same thing.
I go find those little sales, and you get something that, like, what is, let me look at this thing. I break it open, and there's all kind of just beauty in it, and, some scribbled notes and stuff. So, yeah, I love those.
I'll put it like this. My wife and I, a few years ago, went over to Houston, Texas for a concert. We got there. Everybody else, I don't understand it. They go party, they go to, go out for drinks, all this kind of, no. We mapped out all of the bookstores in Houston and went to about 3/4 of them. We almost couldn't get in the car to come home. It was stuffed so full of books we had bought. So, yeah, I'm an addict, and I want to tell you something that's a lot healthier than drugs. So if you're going to get addicted to something, make it books. And you can probably get that first fix at Lemuria Bookstore. So go by there and see.
Lemuria is a great store. Again, growing up around here and knowing what that meant to our community here in Jackson for so long, and then living in Oxford for 21 years, and when you knew what a great bookstore looked like, and then you go up and see Square Books, you're like, yep, this is a great one too. But Lemuria is just a wonderful place. He is a great guy too, John is, and has just a love for what he does. And what else can you say? You love to see businesses thrive, especially ones that people are doing something that they absolutely love and have passion for, because that translates down to the employees. And I can tell you, he's got a lot of folks that's been there with him for a good while. People don't stay if you don't run a great business.
Well, and the other thing, Lemuria is one of the rarest of rare things in the bookstore world. You can pick up a book and be reading the back, the back copy on the back cover, and just mutter to yourself, this looks pretty good. And the person that wrote it is standing behind you and says, oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. I put a lot into it. You're what?
Yeah. Back to books. I saw this little book sale, a used book sale out at the reservoir area. It was a few months ago. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to stick my head in there. And walking out with a book from the 80s that was one of those, like, what happened in the 80s? And it was pictures and all the stuff and, basic, history. And there was some interesting things in there, but it really threw me back a bit and nostalgia, but also showed me a lot of how much this country has changed. And, yeah, you can find stuff on the internet, right? But there's something about a book. And when you thumb those pages and you read the captions and you see those static pictures, and there's a lot to a book. And I have a whole library of them. I love a book.
Words are important, and I have a story that phrase ties into perfectly. Do you know where Barksdale Air Force Base is? It's in Louisiana.
Yeah.
I'll spoil the answer for you here. What you may not know is Barksdale is where the nuclear bombers are stationed.
Yeah.
Okay? They've had a problem over the past couple of weeks. Drone incursions.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing. This is why I said words are important. Drone incursions. That makes it sound like, it's unidentified, but it's normal.
Yeah,
it's just drones.
Just a guy in the backyard,
It's not UFOs. It's drones. These drones, let me run down the list here, had non-commercial signals. They could not jam them using the state-of-the-art United States military technology. Couldn't jam them. They came in waves of 12 to 15, went over the sensitive areas of the base, and were more advanced, according to the military, than anything that they've seen being used in Ukraine. It's beyond the capabilities of Iran. They don't have the ability to make these. This is the second time in the last 2 weeks that we've had this over major U.S. military bases.
Not to mention New Jersey for.
The whole country, the whole world went through that. But if you change the semantics and you decide to, we went from UFO to UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. Well, that wasn't catchy enough. Now we decided to just call them all drones. It's a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object. If it's an object in the air and you don't know what it is, it's a UFO by definition. But no, if we call them drones, you get to hand wave it away and everything's okay. But let's go with the supposition that they're right, that these are just drones. There's nothing weird going on here. You stupid conspiracy theorist. It's just drones. So you're telling me there is some country, some force on the planet that has the technology to send in drones that we can't stop, we can't jam, we can't deal with, and is far beyond anything we've seen so far, and that's not a problem?
I believe it is. Yeah. I know for a fact that a lot of the reports that came in over the world about that initial, a year plus ago, where we had them floating around everywhere, but there were reports that you couldn't hear them. I mean, it's not the traditional turbine-based drone system. I mean, these things are operating on something. We don't quite understand what they are. And then you add this layer of complexity to it as well, where they're jamming our stuff. So, yeah, that's not some cat sitting over in the backyard flying a drone.
You are dangerously close to leading me down the path to talk about zero-point energy.
Well, somebody's doing it, I think.
What happened to the Malaysia airplane that vanished? Ashton Forbes' ears just perked up somewhere. But we're not going to go into that right now.
Why? Because it's Conspiracy Theory Friday.
Yeah, well, it's everything Friday. It's Take No Prisoners Friday, as it always is here on the show. But I just wanted to point out, and that was a great example to me of the importance of words. If you stop calling them UFOs and you start calling them drones, people think about them differently. They look at them differently, and they react to them differently.
Yeah, they think they're like a little bee going on a little job and coming back to the hive. But yeah, again, I'm very confused. I mean, I'll be honest, as to the lack of actual care, the lack of attention, to these issues. And maybe it's because you have so many things going on in the world as far as wars and oil prices and economies and, all these things. Then you got gridlock in Washington, and maybe people just don't care. But it's one of those things that doesn't add up. It doesn't math.
No. And the elected officials are never going to address this, and I'll tell you why. They give a wide berth to anything that they can't have the appearance of understanding and controlling.
I love the way you just put that, because when I was being taught in finance early on, you're going to get questions that you don't know the answer to. And really the question is, how do you handle that? What do you do? Do you just make up stuff or pretend to have authority or knowledge or whatever it may be? Or do you go, hey, hold on a minute. Let's go do some investigating and let me get back with you on that. That's the way I was taught. And I always found that to be very helpful and respectful of the people that you're dealing with. Now you put the hat on the congressman or senator, and not having an answer is the way you get, beat in elections, apparently. If the answer's wrong, you got to have an answer.
But let's make sure that we put this, no matter what words are being used to describe these things. And some of them are actual drones. Some of them I don't think are. And let me just point this out. After Nirvana broke up because of Kurt Cobain, him dying,
or murdered. It depends on how you look.
Oh, well, that discussion's still going on. Dave Grohl formed a new band called the Foo Fighters. Everybody knows who the Foo Fighters is. Do you know what they're named after?
Yeah, those little balls of light that they were finding in World War II, right?
Yes, they were following them. They were following the fighter jets in World War II from 1942 to 1945. The pilots nicknamed them Foo Fighters because nobody knew what they were. They were faster than the jets. They were zipping around everywhere. Oh, I guess those were drones too. No, we have a long history of things in the sky, and we have no idea what it is, but we are currently in an era where everything is manipulative. Mm-hmm. And this brings us neatly right back around to the words that are used. Most people go through their life every day with little understanding of just how much they're being manipulated on a second-by-second basis just through word choice. It's like what we started with this morning, where news agencies were reporting that the Senate unanimously passed that bill this morning. No, there were 5 people barely awake in the room, and nobody said no, so therefore it just went ahead and went in. That's not the same thing as 100 senators going, I vote aye, but that's how it's being presented. To manipulate your perception of how this works and what's actually happening. I just want to make it clear, if you think, boy, Dave is so cynical. I am not this cynical. I'm much worse off the air. This is happy, positive Pollyanna Dave that you get behind the microphone. You get so much worse.
From theseabrook.com.
Good morning.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I don't see you guys rating the kind of mate I'm contemplating. I'd let you watch. I would invite you, but the queens we use would not excite you. So you better go back to your bars, your temples.
You better.
Your massage parlors.
One night in Bangkok and the world's your oyster. The bars and temples, but the pills ain't free. You'll find a God.
Haven't thought about this song in a while, and I
Murray Chess, baby.
didn't realize until just now how happy I was. I had a good life. And then you played that as the bumper, and now I'm stuck here. Thanks so much for that.
I'm good at that.
Mornings presented by Community. Notice I'm just going right to business.
Just roll on.
Let's get right out of that. Community Bank is here for every part of your financial journey. If you're looking to manage your personal finances, their banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. If you're ready to grow your business, they have expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. And if you're dreaming of a new home, they have mortgage specialists to make the process seamless, all of it designed with you in mind. They're more than just a bank. They're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. Went to the movie last weekend for the first time in a while, Lance.
Wow. What'd you go see, man?
Project Hail Mary.
How was it? I've read great things about it.
It is absolutely perfect.
Really?
That is one of the best movies I have seen in a while. All the raving that you've seen about it and all of the critic scores and the audience scores are not lying to you. It's now, fair warning, it's 2 hours and 46 minutes long. Mm-hmm. The movie itself, not counting the previews, because the showtime you get for the theater, that's when the previews and the commercials start. Maria Menounos, I'm sorry, my dear, I don't care about your trivia questions. Could you please drop that? And then you've got previews and everything else, and then the movie starts from the opening scene of the movie until it's over and the credits roll. 2 hours and 46 minutes, and it feels like about 30. It's one of those kind of movies.
Mm-hmm. Really?
It gets going. It's entertaining. There is no message involved here.
Good.
There's no preaching. There's nothing of the kind. It's about as anti-woke as you get. You got 2 heroes in the movie. You got 2 main characters. That's a white dude and a rock. I mean, it's the antithesis of everything we've seen from Hollywood for quite a while now. And it has exploded at the box office. And it's a really great example. We came home, my wife, as she's the one that really started the push to go see it, because I just, unless I get some kind of motivation, I never go anywhere. So she was pushing, and I was all on board. So we loaded up and we went. Fantastic experience. Great movie. I highly recommend it to anyone. It's a throwback to when movies were supposed to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Supposed to have a story and be entertaining and be fun. No deep messages, no sermons, just have a good time. That's the entire point, and that's the job they're supposed to be doing. We got home, and she immediately went and ordered the book that it's based on. She said, I want to read this now. She's talking about she wants to go back and see it again. And frighteningly enough, I'm on board with that idea. It was a great movie. So,
well, I mean, I'll one up you on that, man. I did not make it to the movies, but I did watch the original Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles from like 1939.
Ooh.
And, you know, like Basil Rathbone.
Yes,
and,
Basil Rathbone.
And all this.
And
like
his
Nigel
nose.
Bruce and all these names. I love the English names. They're so great. You got Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce and Preveli Marley. But no, what a great movie. I'm a movie junkie, so it's always nice to me to hear that we're still pumping out quality because some of it's garbage.
Yeah,
you can go back to the 30s and 40s. There weren't really many bad movies. They may not be great, but they weren't terrible. You know, there were great acting going on.
The main thing, you and I have talked about this before. The main thing, yes, this was based on a novel by Andy Weir, the same guy who wrote the book The Martian that they made that movie on with Matt Damon. They're 2 for 2. Same directors on this one as they had on The Martian. It is a different movie in a lot of ways, very similar in other ways, but it's an original. It's not a reboot of a rehash of a repeat of a relaunch of a remake of something we've already seen half a dozen times. We keep getting that thrown in our direction, and the reason why is, well, most of Hollywood is comprised of people that are so busy trying to get the right message out, they don't care if you're entertained. And that's the easy way to do it to them. Well, we'll just remake Ghostbusters, except with all women this time. What? I've seen Ghostbusters. Come up with something new. Come up with something different.
I love the original Ghostbusters, you know. But, yeah, the remakes are terrible, I think, honestly.
Yeah, have you seen...
disservice to Ghostbusters.
Not movies, but television. Have you seen that they are launching a new X-Files TV show?
No, don't do it, please.
Oh, it gets better. Ryan Coogler, the guy that did the movie Sinners, which was set in the Mississippi Delta, just won a ton of Oscars, is involved in this. They have cast their 2 lead FBI agents. They've made it clear this is not a reboot. They are not Mulder and Scully. This is more of a sequel down the road. Past them. So at that point, okay, you've got free reign there. You're not trying to convince me somebody is Mulder and Scully. Okay. They have an African-American woman and an Indian man from India that are going to be the 2 agents.
Is the Indian guy on an H-1B?
I don't think so. They're still processing his paperwork.
Yeah, he's in line.
But here's the thing. That's slightly better than just rebooting it and saying, here's your new Mulder and Scully. No, it's not. We had one of those already. But at least it is iterating off of something that already existed.
Well, I wish they would have done like Blue Book instead of X-Files. You know, like back at
Project Blue Book.
Yeah, man, like go with that and show like a precursor to how the X-Files became what it was. That would be original rather than a reboot.
Yeah, well, that's all we're getting is reboots, remakes. Jamie Lee Curtis is starring in a new reboot movie of Murder, She Wrote. I mean, there is not a... I keep waiting for the Alf reboot. It's coming. You know it's going to happen. They're eventually going to get down to that. That's all that's going to be left, and they're going to trot that one back out.
So Jamie Lee is going to basically be Angela Lansbury? Is that...
Yes.
No, you can't do that to poor Angela. That's not right. She's she's an iconoclast.
The harder you think about it, the worse it's going to feel to you. But the number 1 movie in America, making money hand over fist, it crossed $100 million at the box office in 6 days. Was the number 1 movie last week. It's projected to be the number 1 movie this coming weekend. It's not a sequel. It's not a remake. It's not a reboot. It's original. Not a single character that's ever been seen before in anything out of Hollywood is involved in this. Not a concept. Nothing. It's original. That's what it's going to take to reclaim entertainment.
Exhausting trying. This leads me to a point I made the other day. I think I texted Richard. That you think that it would, given that everything we consume, like all the foods and stuff, has a label on it that tells you what it is that you're consuming. It would be, a novel concept to actually have a label on movies, commercials, sitcoms that are created by AI or partially created by AI. So you would at least know that I'm consuming something a robot made versus a human. Because you are consuming it. Now, I'd love your opinion on that because, I know you like AI. You believe that it's going to do a lot of great things, and yet we've got to be very careful in how we use it. But, what is your concept of thinking on that? Like, do you think Americans should know that they're getting something generated from an artificial intelligence, or is it okay just to consume products like that, media-wise, where you just really don't know where it comes from?
My question in response to that is, why does it matter? Has there ever been a notification that they were using CGI, that they were using green screen, that they were using digital effects all the way back in the 70s and 80s?
No.
I remember the original War of the Worlds TV movie that came out. It was so well done. The lasers coming from the Martian tripod walkers were hand-painted on the film one frame at a time. Did they have to disclose what kind of brush they used?
No.
A tool is a tool. You use your tool, to the best of your ability to make the best thing you can make. Are there always going to be people that are going to use a tool to crank out some nonsense for a quick buck? Well, yeah, that's been going on since the start of time. This is no different. Makes it a little easier. I just think we're getting really caught up in the weeds on the whole AI thing because, again, it is a tool. And, once you start down that path of, well, we need to disclose that AI was used, okay? And would you also tell me what brand computer, what software you used for the special effects? Was all the music created by musicians sitting in a room, or was some of it digitally mastered?
If you and I were doing it, it would be on a Samsung.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. On dial-up.
Yeah. Blink, blink, bling, bling, bling. Nah.
That's more of the budgetary constraint of working in radio, the dial-up. Final segment on this Friday morning of mornings, right after this. Keep it here.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Only in some cases. I'm stunningly built for television.
Looking sharp with that beard, man. Look at that thing. It's been hijacked by the barber, huh?
I just went yesterday and had a little trimmy poo done. You got to do maintenance. It's like your yard, except I won't get ticketed if this gets too ridiculously out of control. Want to leave you with a good one. Some of the news you're not hearing. There's always plenty of that because all we ever hear is Washington, Trump, Democrat, Republican, blah, 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 nonstop. That's all that's happening.
Yeah.
Right? Did you know that they have determined that there is a second Sphinx?
Oh, really? Where is this one?
Right next to the one we're familiar with.
Okay.
Except it's buried about 180 feet below the sand. They determined this, and this sounds loopy, but they determined this using, number one, satellite imagery, and they said, wait a minute, what's that? There's something weird in this area right next to the current Sphinx. And then they went over there and used ground-penetrating radar.
Oh, good. Well, Zahi Hawass didn't, you know that guy, right?
Yes.
The Egyptian dude? Yeah.
No, he's down there waiting.
Yeah, he's waiting
but it's there. We will probably never actually lay eyes on it because the Egyptian government's not going to let them go dig up the front yard of the Pyramid of Giza.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. But the Sphinx that we know, that we're familiar with, isn't the real deal to begin with, sort of. It is, but it was used for everything from target practice on down over the years. So they had to recarve the head so it would at least look like something.
Yeah.
That's why the nose isn't on there still. Target practice, literally. The one buried beneath the sand is pristine. It's the actual thing. If they ever did dig it up, it's going to look completely different from the one that we're used to seeing, that everybody gets the image in their head. When you say the Sphinx, you know what we're talking about. No, the other one is not going to look like that.
Yeah, it's going to be more pristine and preserved. Had a little,
Yes.
a little type of grapefruit sand scrub sitting under the the desert all this time. It's going to be looking shiny and great complexion.
Yes,
no
the
pock
second-
marks.
The second Sphinx has a much better skincare regimen than the one we're familiar with, yes. But that to me speaks to something. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about with entertainment. Mm-hmm. Entertainment, day-to-day life, politics, everything. We get so caught up in the same old treadmill, retreading the same things over and over and over and over. When something new does come along that's at least interesting, most of the time it gets ignored. It gets skipped because, well, it's not, the mental version of comfort food, which is what so many people spend their time looking for now.
Do you think that, and that's a good, interesting point. You just made me think of something. Do you think that we're algorithmically using, say to create script or to create movies or entertainment? You look back and you go, all these things that have been done, they were clicked so much and used so much. So the algorithm seemingly maybe pushes us into that place where it knows what works and it doesn't want to take risks on, say, scripts and things that are maybe off the periphery a little bit. Do you think that maybe that's something that's happening? Just the algorithm itself is just kind of perpetuating this repeat? Or is that more human element, do you believe?
I think it's some of both. Are you familiar with the AI detector softwares that are out there?
Yeah, I haven't used any, but I've heard of them. Yeah.
Of course, they're powered by AI, which I find absolutely hysterical, but the most used one, buddy of mine took the opening 7 lines of Chapter 5 of Frankenstein, the original Mary Shelley novel of Frankenstein, and put it in the detector, and it came back and said it was 100% certain it was written by ChatGPT.
Yeah. ChatGPT was there at that time. But yeah.
We have sunk intellectually to the level to where if something is written with good grammar, excellent flow, and tells a great story, well, obviously a person didn't do that.
That's a good point.
That's literally where we have led ourselves to and continue to lead ourselves to, basically lowering our already basement level expectations of other people to the point to where, well, that's actually pretty good. There's no way you did it.
That's a great point. I mean, as Americans, we should expect more, demand more, but at the same time, that you're making a good point, man. I appreciate you going into the detail here in this last half because I love the conspiracy side.
If you don't live your life expecting excellence, you're going to get everything but.
You got that right.
Quit assuming the worst while you're hoping for the best. And you're usually going to land somewhere in the middle, unless, again, they decide to make another Ghostbusters redo, in which case we'll be right back in the basement. Enjoyed it, sir. We won't get together next week because it's going to be the goodest of Good Fridays.
Well, man, have a great weekend. Thanks for letting me hang out with you.
Anytime, buddy, anytime. But I will see you in a couple of weeks at 6:06 for mornings, my friend. I'll see you then.
But it's all over now.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.